So leading into it, getting the housekeeping out of the way, two shows coming up in Edentown, New Jersey at, let me see if I have this right, Sun Eagles Golf Club. Not your first golf club appearance, but not many in your touring history. Am I right?
No, you know what? And when they called me and they said it was, I didn't put two and two together because they go, it's comedy on the green. When they said green, they literally mean the green.
Yeah.
Like on a golf course. So I mean, I'm super excited, after the pandemic and as things opened up for an entire year, I didn't leave the state of Texas. And not only did I not leave the state of Texas, I was already not doing many dates on the East Coast. So when this date came around, I was super excited, and I'm glad that they believed in me because the first show was already sold out.
Yeah.
And things are awesome, and I just can't wait to go visit the East Coast and do a show out there because we all need laughter. And if anybody got hit the hardest, it was the East Coast. So I'm super happy to go out there and provide. The fact that they called me unessential is not fair. I am essential. We need to laugh.
For sure. Well, speaking of laughing and material and all that, you have no shortage of material given how many specials you had. And if somebody sees you in like January of one year, January the next year, they're going to get a different show, which is fantastic. Not every comic can you say that about. But when I speak to comics, I like to ask, so you have a club set, you have maybe a theater kind of set that you do, and then you have a private gig set. Do you have a golf club set in mind?
I don't have a literally speaking golf club. I don't have a golf club set. However, I'm also one of these very lucky comedians that my act doesn't change. I always say I have strong language. It's not a dirty show. Yeah. So whether I'm doing a club, a theater, West Coast, East Coast, the Southwest, the South, it doesn't matter. My show's the same because at the end of the day, if you're married, if you are in a relationship, I am talking about, I always say I have more material and more material because life goes on, things change in my life, and I draw from my everyday life. So I'm lucky, my set's always the same. I don't change things up. I am who I am. And I think there's a lot of people out there that can relate to what I do because they are married. They're dealing with a wife that they're frustrated with. She's dealing with a husband that she needs to go see. Sure. You're not alone, so I'm just excited to come and bring, I call it's like a chronicle of my life. I want to bring what has happened to me in the past 2 years on the stage. And of course, I always sprinkle in kind of the older stuff to make sure that people, a lot of times people bring people who haven't seen me, and then they get disappointed if I don't do a bit that they liked, that they wanted them to see. So it's always a mishmash and a mix, but ultimately I'm lucky that my set is my set.
Yeah, makes sense. You got to leave them with the hits. Musicians can play the same hits for 40 years and keep people happy, and a comedian repeats a joke and there's always a small percentage of the audience that goes, I've heard that before. I will not laugh a second time.
Yeah, exactly. If Twisted Sister brings you a new song, you're pissed.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't come here to hear your new stuff. I came here to rock, and I want to rock, and I want to hear it, But with comics, I find with my stuff that I get both, right? If I give them all new material, then I have people coming to me saying, man, I brought this couple with me because I wanted them to see the Vegas joke, or I wanted them to see the shopping joke, or the McDonald's joke, and you didn't do it. So then they get disappointed. And then if I do the old stuff, then you have the people that go, hey man, what the heck? I came here for new stuff. So I try to balance it out. I try to put on the best show that I can, especially because I am a working class guy. Mm-hmm. And I come from a working class family. And I know that the people that have come to my show have spent their money and chose to spend it with me. So I try to give the very best show that I can, try to be as professional as possible. I don't drink on stage because I think that's unprofessional. And I think that if I'm drinking, I'm not able to give the very best show that I can give. So that's always my goal, be relatable, to be as funny as possible, and to make people feel like they had a good night out and that they forgot about the BS, and I don't do politics. I don't do religion. For that exact thing is that, we're trying to forget politics. We're trying to forget all the craziness that's going on in the world. And if I can sit there for an hour and laugh with this comedian, then my money was well spent.
Yeah. Now, before I throw you a bunch of compliments and ask you about the podcast and all that great stuff there, it's funny that you mentioned that about I don't drink on stage. That's not on brand. That's not the smart thing to do. Because there's an interview I taped yesterday with a musician who started up a tequila line, and it's all about promoting the tequila line. And the whole reason that all started was a bartender or two on tour told them, your fans drink more tequila than anybody. And that's because the fans drink what the band drinks. And then that turned into a mini empire. So it's funny to hear that works for some entertainers, and then other people wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. So respect to you for following what you believe in. And if you're ready for the compliments here. Okay. When I had the pleasure of seeing you back in November, when you had My Life in Quarantine, newly out, you weren't the happiest guy on earth. Just about every comic that I'd spoken with around then, and even 4 or 5 months later, was kind of going, I'm not working like I used to. It's hard to stay focused on material. There's no places to workshop material. Understandably, you had your livelihood taken away, or largely taken away. So from watching you on social media, from talking to you now, you seem like you're doing much better. Seems like there's no shortage of material. The work is back. It could be better, but it's pretty much back. So congratulations on that end. Plus, still doing a podcast every week since October.
I am doing better, and there has been a adjustment within the family of, let's get back into the routine of me coming home, going on the road. But other than that, I'm so happy to be back on stage. I'm so happy to be performing, and I make sure, just to give you an example, I will be raising money this Friday for the Ronald McDonald House of South Texas. And then 5 a.m., I will be on a plane to New Jersey to do this show. And I remember at some point before the pandemic, me going, oh my gosh, and this is wearing me out, and it's not worth it, and it's beating me up. And now I have this real sense of appreciation for the hustle, and for, and this time I'm like, hey, I'm going to do this charity. And then I'm going to wake up in the morning, early in the morning. I'm going to fly to New Jersey. And then I'm flying out at 6 a.m. the next day. And you know what? I'm at work.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go and I'm going to provide for my family. And I'm happy to do it. So there has been a new sense of appreciation. And I think you can go one of two ways. And I think some people have chosen to go, oh, I don't want to go back to work. And I don't want to get in the car and deal with the day-to-day. I want to now work from home, and I look at the opposite, like I want it the way it was before the pandemic. And I'm happy to get on that plane, because I didn't say this, a comedian said it, or a musician said it. They don't pay me to perform. They don't pay me to walk on stage. They pay me to leave my house, to travel.
To get in the air, to deal with airports and hotels and eating bad food. And that's what they're paying you for. That's
the hard work. The being on stage and performing in front of the people of New Jersey is a pleasure, an honor, a privilege to be on that stage. It's hey guys, you do realize that I was up at 3:30 in the morning flying your way.
Yeah.
And I had a connection in Dallas, and I had to get here, and I had to Uber to the hotel, and all that stuff is the work part. Being on stage, watching people laugh. And another thing too is, one thing that has come back is I'm back to doing meet and greets. I always did a meet and greet after my shows, regardless of the ticket price. If you were at my show afterwards, I wanted to shake your hand. I wanted to thank you. And we're back to that. So I'm also and that was another missing piece of the puzzle, is that, yes, I went back to work, but there was no human contact and there was no human interaction. So now that I'm able, and people are vaccinated, I'm able to stand out there, shake everybody's hand, thank everybody for coming out. And, it's those little moments where I get that comment from that couple when they say, hey, I had cancer 2 years ago and we watched your material and it helped us. Or we almost got a divorce and then we found you and realized that we were normal. My life in quarantine, for example, that special is touching a lot of couples because I talk about our miscarriage. So when I'm off stage, I have a lot of couples going, thank you for that. You gave us hope. You made us want to continue to try to have a kid. So it's those little moments that selfishly I need, and they're coming back.
After you say a wonderful thing about your wife like that, it's hard to then say, so Captain Evil. So you have that podcast, which, as I mentioned, it started up back in October. Most people start up podcasts because they had nothing else to do. They weren't doing their normal routine and all that. For you, is this a long-term thing that you hope to do for a long time to come?
Yeah, you know what? We're going to stick to it. We have so many people that really enjoy it and like it. And to be honest with you, my wife and I like it. We're so busy that, it is nice to sit down for that 1 hour a week and have a discussion with my wife, knowing that people are watching. So it keeps us a little more calm so we can actually very nicely argue. But it has become part of our routine and something that we really like. And again, it is a chronicle of my life. It is an open conversation between me and my wife, and people are finding common ground, and people are enjoying the conversation that we're having on this podcast. And I also wanted people to meet my wife. I think my wife is beautiful and talented and smart and thick-skinned. And, we had a message recently and they said, I found your podcast and, I'm so disgusted that you call your wife Captain Evil. And, that is misogynistic. And I very simply sent her a message back saying, who are you to tell me and my wife how we should treat each other?
Yeah.
My wife has no issue with it. We enjoy it. We find it very funny and entertaining. Who are you to then tell me and my wife how I'm treating my wife or vice versa? I mean, that's what's scary is we're getting to a point where the people think that they can take things away from you because of the way that they think or they feel.
Yeah. Not to make it about me here, but the other day I got a really harsh comment on one of my interviews, and the person was knocking a particular question or two I asked, and then you scroll down the questions and then you see people complimenting that same exact question. So it all boils down to you can't please everyone. Everyone has their own made up rules, but the people that love you really love you. The people that support you really support you, and they're really who matters. So the army of Steve is a growing loyal fan base.
Well, and I look, I remember as a kid, and you're probably right around my age, or if not close, but when we were a kid, we would say, "This is a free country. I can do what I want."
Yeah.
And I feel like as an adult, I'm getting to that point where I'm like, "This is a free country, and I should be able to do what I want, as long as I'm not affecting you."
Yeah.
What happened to change the channel? What happened to, well, I don't like this guy. I don't like the way he treats his wife or calls his wife Captain Evil. Move on.
Yeah.
But the idea that your opinion is so valuable,
Yeah.
that I better share it and I better let him know that I'm so righteous that I have to let you know. And it's a scary place to be for comedy, for journalism, for freedom of speech. It's very scary. And for me, again, if you don't like what I do, move on. You have the right to move on. You also, and by the way, what I do is art, and art is subjective. It's all subjective. It's all opinion. I might not be the comedian for you. Go find somebody else.
Go see a prop comic. No, I'm kidding. Everyone likes Carrot Top as a human being. The last thing that I'm curious about here is when I said music, you randomly made a reference to Twisted Sister. Does that mean I'm talking to a guy that likes Van Halen, Twisted Sister, and Kiss?
I do. I love them all, man. And I am a classic rock kind of guy. And And it's funny because I was thinking of New Jersey, and maybe that's why it came to my head. I'm very good friends with Eddie Ojeda, and Eddie Ojeda is the guitarist
From Twisted.
From Twisted Sister, and he's right there in New Jersey. And I just, it's also one of those things where, to me, Twisted Sister is one of those references that if you don't know who Twisted Sister is, you got to get off planet Earth. I mean, Dee Snider and those guys just have that 80s rock and roll look. So I think that's why I picked the reference, because I was thinking of New Jersey, thinking of Eddie Ojeda, thinking of a band that when you go see them, no offense, Eddie or Dee, I don't want to hear what you've written lately.
I gotta say, actually, Dee's solo album, the last one, I haven't heard the new one that's about to come out, is one of the coolest metal albums that anyone has put out. And it's a shame it was put out by Dee Snider in like 2017. He and the singer of Hatebreed worked on an album together. And you're like, this is the coolest metal album that no one's talking about.
Well, and I get so frustrated when people go, oh, well, they're no good anymore. Well, that's not fair, because do you realize how many 80s bands tried to make it and couldn't come up with anthems, literally anthems of our life, that Dee Snider and Twisted Sister were able to put together? All the other ones that didn't make it, these guys have talent and they're very, very good at what they do. And you watch Eddie Ojeda, who I have shred a guitar, and he's, they call him Eddie Fingers Ojeda because he's amazing, and again, going back to, who are you to say something is good or not good?
Mm-hmm. And you were the first person to not call him Eddie Ojeda that I've ever encountered.
I'm also Latino, so it helps that Eddie Ojeda. I will say this, so Eddie and I are friends, and he came down to Corpus Christi, Texas, where I'm from.
Yeah.
And I go, Eddie, you want to go fishing? I have a fishing boat. He goes, yeah, man, we'll go fishing. The next morning, he shows up in full heavy metal rock and roll gear. He's like black boots, black jeans. And I'm like, Eddie, we're going fishing. He goes, I don't own any other clothes. So it was so rock and roll to have Eddie Ojeda on my boat dressed like rock and roll. It was awesome.
I agree. And that reminds me of hearing stories about Judas Priest. They're always golfing, but they're wearing the leather on the golf course. So golf courses, you'll be in Edentown very soon. Hopefully the first of many golf gigs to come, Steve. But
well, I'm very excited, and as a Treviño, I guess we belong on golf courses. So maybe it's an homage to Lee Treviño that somehow I ended up on a golf course.
Well said. Well, looking forward to seeing you live here in New York when the time is right. But in the meantime, just keep up all the greatness over there.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you guys so much, and big hugs to all my New York friends and family, because you guys have had it rough, and I'm glad to see that New York City is as resilient as it is and has always been. So good luck to you guys.
Paltrocast.